Good morning. So really quick video, I wanted to get some stuff out of my system. Yesterday I ended up kind of like talking about some of the things that I had written down on my notes app, which is something I'm doing more. Like when I'm going to bed and I start thinking about things, I'm kind of like writing things down because sometimes I start to think about it, but it's kind of like this half-baked thing because I'm sleepy, so I'm not like at full capacity, and also I end up falling asleep a lot of the time. So I can never really conclude those thoughts. But something that I wanted to talk about was selective empathy. Oh yeah, by the way, before that, look at me, my new dress. It was on a crazy sale and I had cashback, so it was even like cheaper. And yeah, you could argue I don't need any more clothes, but right now that I'm going back to college, I'm like going out. I have if you kind of like add up work and school and just me kind of like having a more active social life, I'm gonna get used out of this, what I'm trying to say. Also, I'm doing that thing still where like I get a new item of clothing, I get something out, so something in, something out. So there's more stuff that I'm gonna put up for sale, and hopefully like I'm gonna get a good yeah, like I'm gonna get my money's worth, basically, out of, because there's some stuff like, because for me usually I'm not really in the habit of buying stuff that's too expensive. So basically when I sell stuff, I can still get like a portion of the amount that I used when I bought it. But anyways, back to selective empathy. So basically I kind of like was observing kind of like how I know there are some things that I'm like really empathetic to, like I really do care and they really do affect me, and they make me kind of like sympathize with people with their struggles. But then at the same time, there's like different groups of people that like I feel absolutely nothing towards. And to be fair, like I'm not saying that some of these groups I should feel something, because they're kind of like wishing me like so like I don't want to ish someone well, even though like that would be the Christian thing to do. But I'm not a Christian, was raised as one, but that's not where I am at right now. But still, like I want to kind of like try to put things into perspective for myself, so that I won't be affected so much by when something is said and done that really affects me, something that is said like against me, because it's mostly for myself. Like I want to kind of like have a level of stability that pretty much means that I how do I put it? That like those things they're said and done, like they don't really, even if they affect me, they don't really take away my peace. Like that is kind of like the main thing for me right now. Like I don't want to kind of like lose myself in this kind of like in these struggles. I want to kind of like maintain. I want to be level-headed and focus on the things that are good, the things that are kind of like matter, because ultimately, like it's kind of hard for me to say that some of these things that people say and do, they don't matter, because like they end up swaying people a certain direction, and like usually these people they're swayed, like I kind of like sort of have not felt a whole lot for about them, for them. I just kind of like it's kind of like they ish me ill, like I wish them ill, and that's kind of like this vicious cycle. And as I said, like I want to like not think about all of these things, because they're always going to be out there. There's always going to be something like that like that is having like an impact on my life, short term or long term. But like a lot of these things I can't control, so like what I can control is myself, even though I struggle with that. So I don't want, basically what I'm trying to say is that I don't want to be affected by these things. I want them to kind of like get in one ear and leave in the other. Yeah, that is kind of like how things go. But yeah, but basically the concept of selective empathy, like it's not that I want to feel bad for people who kind of like want me not to not do well, but I want to kind of like at least be able to put into perspective what they have to say, so that it doesn't hurt me so much. So like it's all about pain, emotional pain, and sometimes physical pain as well, because depending on what people are advocating for, like there is an infringement of my and other people's rights. So it's kind of like this dichotomy, as I said, because on one hand I want you to not care, I want you to not think about it, but on the other hand, like that is really irresponsible for me to not kind of like consider these things. So I'm kind of stuck in this middle where like I see these things, they affect me, and then I kind of like I lose my peace of mind for like a little while, and like that's very yeah, like that is, I don't know, man. I'm just very I don't know, questioning myself, basically. I'm really kind of like thinking that, because I don't know, like on one hand, like, I don't think any of these people deserve my empathy, you know, after what they say and they do. But I want to not be affected, and I think that a way for me to do that is to kind of like break things down, and see them as miserable people. You know, like, if you look at them and you realize like that is that kind of like all those things they think like they come from a place of misery. You know, because that's the thing. Like, on one hand, I want to kind of like care more, but on the other, I really don't. I want to kind of like I want people to be gone, and I don't want, you know, like, any type of redemption arc for them. Although, to be fair, like, I do believe in second chances. I do believe people can change. So, you know, like, if somebody's willing to change, I could get behind that. But I don't know, I feel that is such an I don't know, that's not that it's impossible, but like, it's not really happening. I'm kind of stuck in this middle, where I'm kind of like, I'm willing to give people a second chance, but at the same time, like, I kind of already expect the worst from them. And I don't really know how to leave the cycle. I don't even know if I don't feel like I should, you know, like, I think I'm really holding on to my grudges, really holding on to, you know, but that means I'm holding on to the pain, and that is pretty much what I don't want. You know, I want to kind of like live my life freely, and in a way that doesn't get in the way of me, kind of like having, you know, good quality of life. Because ultimately, it's about that. It's about it's not so much about what people say and do. It's about how it affects me. And as I said, so selective empathy. I guess like this is something I will try to work on, but I have no, as I said, I have like no expectations of succeeding. And as I said, a part of me does not want to be more empathetic towards some people. But as I said, like, if I can kind of like understand where they're coming from, I think that, you know, like, it do get. I think when I break down, like, we break down anything, what ends up happening is that kind of like the power that it has over you, like, it diminishes. So, you know, like, that's kind of like what I want. I want to break things down, because that would mean that how do I put it, that I know it would hurt less. I think that is kind of, you know, like, the thing here. I want to feel less pain, and maybe being a little more empathetic towards certain groups, like, it's like lead to that. But at the same time, like, I want them to die. You know, that's kind of like just where I am at. So yeah, so I don't know. You know, this was a bit of a rambly, but I'm gonna wrap this up right now because we're gonna leave. And we're gonna go to this, my mom and I. It is this, we call it, you know, Feed the Hippie. It would be like the hippie fair, and it's one of the biggest, you know, like, outdoor fairs in all of Latin America. So that's, you know, interesting. There's a lot of, there's food there, but like, I'm aiming like not to eat anything there, because I want a bag, you know, like, kind of like more closer to a purse, you know, because I have one, and this one is getting to a point where it isn't giving me, it's on his last breath. Is that a saying? You know, basically, so I want to go there, see, you know, if I find something there, because, you know, like, there's a friend of ours who, she has a really nice bag, and she got it there. So we're gonna go and we're gonna see things, and there they have, as I said, there's food, there's clothes, there's accessories, there's home decor, there is art, there is, you know, like, lots of like different things. It's pretty fun. Even if you don't get anything, it's fun to go about it. But yeah, but we're gonna go there. So that's it for today. Not radical empathy, but like selective empathy, and I'm trying to kind of like do better in terms of you know, being hurt by things. I don't want, you know, for things to hurt so much. And I think that if I break things down, you know, which is kind of like in itself a level of empathy, like, I think it's going to be easier for me. So yeah, there's that. Anyways, bye.